Howdy, Mike McCoy here. Just making sure everything's working all right. This is a view from my front porch. Camera back there is backed up to the porch. The old house don't look like much, so I ain't gonna put it in the thing. We're in the process of remodeling it, so maybe it'll look a little better next time I show it to y'all. But the subject of my video today is chainsaws. There seems to be a lot of discussion about Stihl, Husqvarna, and I just thought I'd put my 2 cents worth in there. And I started messing with timber and stuff in 1985. And I went to the credit union where I worked and drawed out enough money to buy me a saw, and I knowed I was going to start this. And it was a billboard right across from a credit union. Is a Stihl advertisement. My wife said, "Now, you get you a saw, you get something made in America, get something good. Don't buy that old foreign stuff, and get you a Homelite." So I went and bought a Homelite Super XL. And few people that knows what a Homelite Super XL is, you're probably laughing right now, for they just barely was fit to cut firewood with. And I went and bought a brand new one. And I thought it was a good saw because I'd never been around anything like that. And started logging. I immediately seen that XL wasn't going to do what I needed to do. So I bought a Husqvarna 77. And they look like a big orange pumpkin. If you carried one up on the mountain, you'd better lean it up against a tree or something, other it'd roll off. They was just almost round. And the spark plug was exposed on top. It had a boot on it, but if that boot got tore a little bit, and I've always had a big old belly and be wringing wet of sweat and touch your belly, it'd just jar your teeth. And they had no shock absorbers on them at all. It'd numb your hands after running them so long. But they was an adequate saw, and they done all right. And then I went and bought a Sachs Domar. And that Sachs was the best timber cutting saw I've ever had. It was as good a saw as I've ever seen to this day. I actually had one guy to bring his Stihl out and show me what a souped up Stihl would do. And he just put it in the back of the truck and we got done. There's a hickory log there probably about 20 inches through. And by the time I got through sawing, I done had my saw laid up and cut off before he ever come close to getting through that thing. And it was a good saw. It was the only saw that I've ever owned that I think would run with a 395 Husky. Now I wore 066 Stihl out. And that 066, I ain't taking a thing away from it. It was a good saw. But it wasn't in the same caliber as that Sachs Domar. And a friend, I've never owned that 95. I think it's a 395 Husky. I ain't real familiar with their numbers. But I've never owned one, but I've been around them. And as far as straight out of the box cutting, that saw I'm sure would cut with that Sachs Domar. Might outcut it. I don't know. You know, it's been years ago, and naturally stuff gets better over the years, but now that Sachs Domar was the most powerful saw I ever held in my hands. And I bought a couple 905, I think it was, Homelites, and them was a pretty good saw. You couldn't get parts for the things, but like cutting up on the landing, they done real good cutting up on the landing, for they didn't turn as fast and they didn't dull as quick. And they was used when I got them, and you couldn't, I finally cannibalized one to fix the other, and then the other tore up, and I just threw them both away. And I had I believe it was a 041 Stihl. And them old Stihls, you'd have to bring them home with you every night and tighten the screws up in them. And I kept fingernail polish and Loctite and everything else trying to keep them screws tight, and I never did find nothing to keep them tight. And that's the one that cut my hand. See, this end, it flew back and hit it. And it wasn't a great big saw, you know, like 041. That ain't real big, but now it done a number on me. And it sounded good, but it was just a continuous struggle keeping the screw straight in. And I've had smaller steels and Huskies and stuff. But as far as timber cutting saws, I had them 77 Huskies, and they was adequate. And then that Sachs Domar, that was a timber cutting saw. Now that thing would cut. And then later on, I bought that 066 steel, and it cut good. It really did, but it wasn't cut with that Sachs Domar. And a boy that helped me some used it, and he told me, he said it wasn't cut with a 395 Husky either. So that's what I'm going on. And I have never been a fan of a souped up chainsaw. My theory on souping something up, if you want something souped up, get your little old hot rod car and soup it up and get out with it and play with it on the weekend or something or other. But if you're making a living with it, you best leave it alone for it. People's designed them things to do what they do. And when you go past that, a lot of times you really cut into the life of them. Just like that Sachs Domar, it was a hot saw. And about every August, it would cook the electronic ignition in it. Matter of fact, that was the saw's downfall. I'd put electronic ignition in about every summer, and the last time it went out, I took it to a shop. I was slam covered up, and I didn't have time to fool with it. And I took it to a shop, and they warped the crankshaft to get the flywheel off of it, and it never did. It ruined the saw. And I just got rid of it. But that thing had saw. And back when that Sachs was really in its prime, I think the steel number was the 058, 059 or something other like that. I know that's what that boy brought out there. He had made his brags about, he'd show me what a real saw would do. And it had been souped up, I know that. But that old Sachs just lay right in there. And that Sachs seemed to have a lot of torque to it. There was one guy that cut for me, and if we was cutting pine, he'd take a chain that's about half wore out and just knock the drags plumb off of it. And I ain't never seen nothing saw like that. It'd throw shaving 6 inches long. But now if you tried to cut oak or hardwood with it and it fixed like that, it'd just break the chain. The chain wouldn't stand it, it'd break into it. And, you know, as far as what's the best kind of chain, Oregon makes real good chain. Steel makes real good chain. And I don't even know if anybody else still makes chain or not. They might, but seemed like there was a company named Windsor that I used to use, and it was good chain. But with that Oregon chain, you have to know what number to order. Well, I can imagine any of it. But if you get the right number on that stuff, you can cut some timber with it. But that's about my thoughts on chainsaws and souping them up and all that. I mean, and if you want to soup you up a chainsaw, do it, but just use it to have fun with. If you try to make a living with it, I'm thinking it might blow up, you know. But now I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. And I've not cut timber in, I know, 15 years, you know. So I don't know, and I don't know what's out there now. But I do know back when I cut timber, them steel saws was good saws, and they was dependable saws, but they were. I never seen one that would cut with that Sachs I had. But now that's not saying they didn't make one. I just never was around one. And, you know, it's whatever you like. I mean, I wouldn't throw a nickel up between a Sachs and a Homelight and all that stuff, you know, if they run good, you know. My opinion, what a good saw is one that full of gas and got oil in it and it'll start and run. That's about it.